Hi, I'm Dr. Jim Turrell. This is a class called The Basics. It's part of a 7-week series, and this is lesson 1. And it's all about the basic concepts of our philosophy of the science of mind. In each lesson, we will discuss 4 aspects of the science or the philosophy. And in this first lesson, we're going to discuss the nature of God as universal and local, the perception of who we are. Do we see ourselves in oneness or duality? Thought, the constructive or destructive nature of thought, and freedom. Can we remove the mystery and really enter into a sense and a state of freedom? So let's start with number 1, God, Goddess, universal or local. If you take a look at the study guide, Ernest Holmes writes, "We see abundance in the universe. We cannot count the grains of sand on a single beach. The earth contains untold riches, and the very air is vibrant with power. Why then is humanity weak, poor, and afraid?" The science of mind deals with these questions. Number 1, God, Goddess, whatever you choose to call the divine, is both universal and local. In the philosophy of the science of mind, the divine is the unifying and essential ingredient of all life. There is no separation between you and the divine. We are all alive in the presence of the divine, and the presence of the divine is everywhere in equal portion. When we say that it's everywhere in equal portion, we really mean that. You can't go to another part of the universe or the planet or the globe and find any more or less God than where you are right now. Right now, God is in you, working through you, as you, and for you. Second idea, perception, oneness or duality. Dr. Holmes writes, "We think of metaphysics perhaps as something that only the most profound thinkers have known about, but we should remember that we are also thinkers. The only thing that separates us from the divine is the way we think. If you see God or Goddess as a power outside of yourself, then you live in duality. The philosophy of oneness works from the premise that your experience outpictures what you believe and what you think." So perception is classically important here. It really is important if whether or not we're looking at the world through the eyes of duality or unity. When you're looking at the eyes of duality, it's perfectly normal. There's up, there's down, there's back, there's forward, there's in, there's out. Duality is everywhere you look. So that means the concept of oneness is not something you're looking at from an empirical point of view or a physical point of view, but from a spiritual point of view. Can we see the oneness and the connection in all of life? Absolutely, it's there. But we have to understand it, and that's really an important part of this philosophy. Third aspect, thought, constructive or destructive. Ernest Holmes writes, "Let us then approach the science of mind with awe, but not fear, with truly a humble thought, but not with a sense that we are unworthy. In the science of mind, the way you think determines your life experience. No matter how bad you want a constructive life, if destructive thought patterns are at the core of your mentality, you must retrain your mind to think new and constructive patterns. Change your thinking, change your life." So you'll see that in this philosophy, how you think and how you think about yourself and how you think about what you think is extremely important. Because the only difference between yesterday and today and tomorrow is going to be in how you think about yourself, not in the circumstance. Remember, it's not what happens to you that matters, it's what you think is happening to you. And finally, freedom, mystery removed. Ernest Holmes writes, "Mind, the thing, spirit causation, is beyond, and yet not beyond our grasp. Beyond in that it is so big within, in that wherever we grasp at it, we are it to the extent that we grasp it. But since it is infinite, we can never encompass it. We shall never encompass God, and yet we shall always be in God and of God. Your freedom is completely connected to your belief in the divine. In our teaching, you can only receive what you can consciously grasp. If you want more good in your life, then you must develop the consciousness or awareness of that good as yours. When you have removed from your consciousness any doubt, fear, or subconscious unwillingness, the divine must demonstrate your good. This is a concept you must prove to yourself through what in our teaching, or the science of mind, is called spiritual mind treatment, or a form of affirmative prayer. This really does remove the mystery, but it's not easy. It's not easy to remove the doubt, the uncertainty, the disbelief. You have to really come back to a place of silent contemplation where you can get to the idea that God is with you now, always has been, always will be. And if you can silently and sort of inhale that concept, if you will, if you can inhale that context that God is always with you, as Jesus said, I am with you always. God is with you always. God is with you right now. So in our prayer that we have for this particular section, I want to read it to you, and here's how it goes. Spirit's universal presence localizes itself in all that it creates. I am one with the presence of Spirit's universal power. I see only my connection and oneness in all. My presence personalizes Spirit's perfect and constructive love. There is no power in any special person. Spirit's power is equally available to all who know the freedom of Spirit's love. I now live in my freedom by releasing my love and localizing my intelligence for the good of every person I meet and every condition I encounter. In the beginning, the divine, only Spirit. Today is my beginning, and I start with Spirit because Spirit is all there is. So I set my intentions this week. Number 1, today I challenge myself to see the God-Goddess in all of life. I choose to know that the divine is present in all, even when I can't see it. 2, today I work to see with the eye of oneness. Separation is a trick of my ego. My life is always one with the divine. 3, today I think constructive thoughts about all things. No matter how hopeless or helpless I feel, I discipline my mind to think constructive. 4, today I allow myself time to think higher thoughts about every person, circumstance, and condition in my life experience. 5, today I am my own freedom. God in me now sets me free to live and move with grace, gratitude, and goodness. Number 6, today I am conscious of all my gifts and filled with gratitude for all my blessings. And finally, today, my mind grasps more of the amazing infinite presence of God's complete genius within. You are God's complete gift to the universe. Live your life today with absolute certainty that God is with you now. That's the end of Lesson 1. Have a great day. Hi, I'm Dr. Jim Turrell. I want to welcome you to the second class on the basics of our teaching, and this is Lesson 2, In the Image, Learning the Way the Divine Works. And in this class, we're going to discover what is Spirit exactly, and when does Spirit become powerful? That's a very important piece of information. And how do we remove limitations, and how do we deal with evil and good? So those are the 4 areas we're going to cover today. So let's get started. Dr. Ernest Holmes writes about what is Spirit, and he says the following. When it comes to Spirit, we know that this is what we are, because we could not be anything else. But we do not know how much of this we are. We can only see it by looking at it through our own eyes. Hence, we shall see a better God, Goddess, when we shall have arrived at a higher standard for humanity. If God or Goddess is to interpret itself to us, it must interpret itself through us, and the Spirit can make no gift that we do not accept. Spirit is defined in the science of mind as God within, whom all spirits exist. This means that all there is Spirit. There is nothing else. There is not your spirit or my spirit. There is just Spirit. What I call my spirit is best described as the amount of Spirit I have grasped. But how much Spirit I have, only my experience can help me know. If my eyes are full of wonder, joy, love, and compassion, and I unceasingly see more and more the Divine Spirit in all I encounter, then Spirit can give me what I crave the most, a greater experience of love. This is what all of us want. We all want a greater experience of love. We all want a greater experience of what love has to offer us. Now, I know some people might crave a greater experience of control or power or domination, but the truth is the inner sense of who we are really wants to know, are we lovable? Can we be loved? Because there is no power greater than love. So if everything is spirit, and I do believe it is, then we are all spirit expressing this amazing, infinite idea of who we are. But we only are expressing it to the degree we can grasp it. This is a very important point. When does spirit become powerful? Dr. Ernest Holmes writes, it can become power to us only when we recognize it as power. If you stand in a dark room and question if there will ever be light, you have forgotten where the light switch is. To understand the light, you must turn it on by finding the inner switch and engaging the power of revelation. It enlightens when you turn it on. You know, self-responsibility is a huge word. It's a huge word because it means that we have to accept responsibility for going within. Be still and know that I am God. Go within. In that inner stillness, there's that which enlightens who you are and brings you into a higher range and a higher expression of what that power really is. But it only becomes power to you when you recognize it as power. That is so important to remember. Because if you're feeling powerless, it's not because there isn't power. It's because you see the power in the circumstance or the condition. So turn within, find God's power, and turn to that power, which is the only real power there truly is. Now, how do we get rid of limitations? Ernest Holmes writes, therefore, our belief sets the limit to our demonstration of a principle which of itself is without limit. It is ready to fill everything because it is infinite. So it is not a question of its willingness nor of its ability. It is entirely a question of our own receptivity. There is no limitation to what can be accomplished or experienced. The great truth is that belief is God or goddess. Whatever you believe either sets you free or keeps you in bondage. Your willingness to change your belief controls your limitations. These are really key points, and I want you to understand that what you believe truly is your experience, and that is your experience of God and what you know God to be. If you want a greater experience of God, you have to have a greater idea of who you are. But you have to be willing to understand that your freedom is based absolutely on what you believe. If you believe you're in bondage, then you are. But if you believe you're free in your mind, your circumstance, your physical circumstance doesn't make any difference. This is really important. A man named Viktor Frankl, he was held in the most horrid situation, but he understood that he had to believe in his own inner freedom in order to maintain his mental freedom. Not his physical freedom, but his mental freedom, because that's really what freedom is about. It's when you know you're in charge. Now, let's get to evil and good. Dr. Ernest Holmes writes, we must instill into the mind the fundamental proposition that good is without bounds. Only good and loving kindness shall follow me all the days of my life. Psalm 23. We must get this concept rather than continuing to think there is a power of evil as opposed to the power of good. We experience good and evil because we perceive a presence of duality rather than unity. If all there is spirit, and spirit is pure love, then all things must be made of love. Whatever another calls evil is in fact love diminished. Evil cannot exist because if it did, spirit would immediately be limited by such an existence. Only good can prevail. All else must either be absorbed or disappear into the nothingness from whence it came. You know, the philosophy that we teach here, this philosophy is so powerful because it really gives you a way to think about things that would just overwhelm the average person. Most people don't have a well-developed sense of philosophy, a love of wisdom of who they are in relationship to God. So when they see things that are negative in the world, they might actually associate that with a power other than God. But truly there is no other power but God. Only our egos would make up a power greater than God or equal to God, and there isn't such a thing. But our egocentric minds believe that, and then that forces us into some imaginary fight that we have with an imaginary idea of that which is the negative. But God cannot be negative because spirit would automatically be limited if it could create something like that. Only our minds create those things, and they create them because we live in that duality. Now, I'm not saying that there isn't evil in the world. There is evil behavior, but there's no entity of anything called evil that can be more powerful than what God is. You have to know that because it's really crucial and central to your mental health, to your well-being. So recognize this as we go into that wonderful affirmative prayer. The Spirit of God's love is now my spontaneous agent. In every moment, Spirit is active, vital, and joyful. Right now, I find my life full of the Spirit of God's energy. It's easy to love, greet, and bless all who I attract. Today, I am powerful because I know Spirit to be my guide. There is no power in limiting Spirit's perfect activity. My power is in releasing my history and extending my joy in this moment. There is only goodness in the now. Evil is nothing more than ignorance, and ignorance is now erased. Although my experience may appear to arise from without, it rises from what I believe, and I believe in God. Let's set some new intentions. First of all, today I challenge myself to see a greater life. No matter what happens, I know that my divine life has the highest and best in mind. Second intention, today I work to see Spirit as the real power of my life. I deny power to any idea that something outside of me is more powerful than the Spirit within. Today I remember that nothing can limit my good except what I believe. Belief sets the limit to my good, and there is no limit to what Spirit can create as long as I truly believe. Today I see only the good. I am not tempted by low curiosity or morbid thought patterns. Life can only become what I declare in my heart of hearts. Today I see Spirit as the power and movement of my life. Today my light shines so bright that any darkness of doubt or disbelief is dispelled and dismissed. Today only God prevails and manifests all that I require for all my dreams to come to expression. I know right now that you are that perfect expression of God's love. God bless you.